What is going on, guys? This is the SS Ultimate Goku back with another video. And today I'm going to be talking about this news that has come out about a day ago. So Jon Gruden. Jon Gruden. Oh boy, Chucky is back in the news. Okay, so Jon Gruden has won his appeal through the Nevada Supreme Court. So what does this mean? You're probably wondering, what does this mean? So a lot of ramifications with this case. For anybody who doesn't know, or you probably should know if you've watched this channel, because I talked about the original incident that happened to how this all started back in 2021. So, Jon Gruden got himself in a little trouble. And the trouble was that he said some very, very, very bad things on an email. And they got leaked. And because they got leaked, this led to his ultimate dismissal from the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, I said this before and I'll say this again. I do not condone any of the things that were said on the email. And whatnot. But the problem is, and a lot of people seem to not either remember because it's been so long, or they just have moved on, which is fine, I guess. But basically, the reason why this was such a big issue at the time was because that these emails were written when Gruden was not an NFL employee. So allegedly, this happened, I believe, around... He wrote these emails to the Washington Redskins organization, or team president at the time, from the Washington Redskins, I believe in 2017, when he was an ESPN employee, basically. He was working for ESPN at the time. He was one of the Monday Night Football guys. One of the Monday Night Football play-by-play guys. This is what he was doing while he was not a head coach for several years. And so he wrote these emails during that time period. So he was not an NFL employee at that time. Then, of course, obviously, several years into him being an Oakland/Las Vegas Raiders head coach, during the middle of one of the seasons, these emails were magically leaked, and they were magically leaked, and then when they didn't get him kicked out for these leaked emails, then they leaked more emails to get him out, like about a couple days later. So that was the issue. Gruden has been on record to saying that he wants to burn the house down. He wants to take this all the way. So what happened is the lower courts ruled in Gruden's favor. Then the NFL appealed, and the higher up court ruled in the NFL's favor. Then the Nevada Supreme Court heard the case, and originally ruled in the NFL's favor, but they only had 3 judge panels out of the 7 that they have. It's all randomized on which 3 get picked for this, but basically the 3 that were appointed from the Nevada Supreme Court, which is the highest court in the state of Nevada, ruled in favor of the NFL 2-1. However, Gruden's attorney had one-ditched effort to appeal to allow the entire Nevada Supreme Court to hear the case, which would mean the 4 others that didn't hear it. And so by doing this, this led to John Gruden appealing it to these final 4 to hear the case, and this ruling just came down a couple of days ago. The final 4 Supreme Court Nevada judges ruled in John Gruden's favor. So it was 5-2. So the 3 others that originally ruled, the 2 that favored it, and the 1 that didn't favor it, they kept their rulings the same, and the 4 remaining ones got to hear it, and they ruled in their decision, and they were unanimous with Gruden. So outside of those 2 other ones, Gruden would have won. If they would have had any of those 4 other judges, other than the 2 that ruled in favor of the NFL, it would have been a 3-0 ruling, apparently, which does beg the question to how different the NFL would have approached it at that time had they done a 3-0 versus the NFL appealing and trying to have the full judge panel. I wonder if they would have done the same approach that Gruden did. However, you're probably wondering what happens now, because obviously the NFL now is forced to now go to trial, right? Which is what everybody really wants to see. Again, I don't condone what Gruden did or what he said, but I want to see the NFL go to court, because there are so many things that the NFL has been hiding over the years, and the over 2,000, or was it 200,000 emails that, to this day, we still have no idea what these emails were. We still have no idea what the emails were. The NFL has tried to bury it. I mean, they had Congress talking to them, talking to Goodell, and they still didn't reveal the emails. They still refused to release the emails. They still refused to do it. And so they refused to do it, but they revealed these emails. These emails that basically forced Gruden's job out. They sacrificed Gruden because, they wanted to get the attention off of what was going on at the time with the Washington Redskins owner. Some people actually theorize it was Dan Snyder themselves. Some people still think it was Roger Goodell who leaked the emails. Other people think it's Dan Snyder, the former owner of the Washington Redskins Commanders. There's been theories for years on this. Who leaked the emails? Gruden wants to know. He wants to burn the house down. To know who leaked these emails. He is that dead set. And I hope he really is. I hope he's dead serious about this, and doesn't just be like, oh, I'm gonna settle. Because that's the 2 things right now that are on the table, is a settlement or go to trial. Now, there is one more play that the NFL can do, which we don't know if they're going to do it yet. And that is go to the U.S. Supreme Court. Appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. That is the only alternative left the NFL has if they are going to appeal. Now, it's going to be very hard for the NFL to get this, because the U.S. Supreme Court only, I think they only hear 100 cases a year. So, it's much harder than people think. A lot of people think, oh, sure, the NFL has all these money. Of course, they're going to get to hear from the U.S. Supreme Court. Not necessarily. Now, I'm not a lawyer or anything like that, but again, 100 cases a year for the Supreme Court, when there are a lot more other dire issues for them to hear, obviously, than a goddamn football league case. But that's where we're at right now with this. I am very interested to see where this goes, and if it's gonna, because if again, the U.S. Supreme Court has to hear the case, so that means some of the judges are going to have to agree that yes, we want to hear this. I think it's I think it's a better chance for Gruden right now, because I just don't see how the NFL is going to get the U.S. Supreme Court to hear this case. They wanted the U.S. Supreme Court to hear the case about the Rams. Remember that when they tried to sue them? Now, of course, not the Rams, sorry, the city of St. Louis. Now, ultimately, the city of St. Louis ultimately settled, and I'm still pissed off about that, by the way, in mediation. But they did try to get the case heard in the U.S. Supreme Court, but that ultimately failed. They decided not to hear the case, and I think that could be what ultimately happens with this case. I don't think the U.S. Supreme Court will hear this case. I think there are way more dire issues, and again, the NFL, obviously, not to get too. I mean, I don't like talking about political shit. I don't like to talk about the political shit, the whole political thing or whatever. This is supposed to be an entertainment type channel. But I will say, because Mike Florio brought it up, because I know Mike Florio, I'm kind of 50-50 on him, but I like that he's around because he does call out the NFL and their bullshit. Sometimes he does it a little too extreme, but I am glad he's around because he talks about the stuff that most people don't talk about, and that's what I respect him for. But Mike Florio's been always on this. And basically, from what I indicated, what I heard from what Mike Florio basically said is, this is the Supreme Court. The U.S. Supreme Court is more of a conservative-leaning judges, right? So you would think they probably would go with the NFL, but Gruden is also a conservative, so. And our unfortunate current president isn't a very, very fan of the NFL right now, too, either. So, and Mike Florio talked about it. I mean, I don't really need to bring it up, but again, I'd rather not bring it up because that's what this channel's about. But, yeah, like if it goes to the U.S. Supreme Court, it is a gamble. It is a gamble for the NFL because again, they just might not decide to hear the case, altogether. Yeah, it's an ultimate lose-lose. The only reason why I want Gruden to win is because I want to see this thing go to trial. Like, I want to know who leaked the emails. Like, I want to see the emails too. Like, if they can bring this to court, they can do discovery and not only learn who it was that leaked the emails, but they can also find out about all the other emails probably that have yet to be leaked. It was only the Gruden emails that got leaked. There's still a bunch of 200,000 more emails that have yet to be revealed. So that's the thing right now, man. That is the thing right now that a lot of people are not understanding right now. That's what we need to find out. I remember the Democrat Congress a couple years ago, had Roger Goodell at the hearing or whatever, and obviously Goodell didn't really say anything, and this is what you got to do, man. You got to until the NFL is held accountable for these things that they're trying to cover up, no one's going to hear it. And I was saying, until we get the NFL into court, until somebody has the cojones to take the NFL all the way to the touchdown, to the end zone, right? Until we have somebody that does that, you're never gonna hear anything about the dirty laundry that the NFL is hiding. And we've never gotten to do that with the NFL. To this day, it's still not happened since last time I think it probably happened was probably in the 80s, right? When Al Davis sued the NFL and he was an owner. It's probably the last time that they've gone to court, right? That was probably one of the more infamous court cases, right? But other than that, I mean, it's always seems like the NFL, you know, they can they either somehow get it out of court, or they settle the court, they settle the case, and then the party just goes with it. I don't think Gruden's that kind of guy, though. That's the thing. Like, I don't think Gruden's that kind of guy to be like, you know what? Sorry about it. I don't think Gruden's that kind of guy to be like, yeah, you know what? I said all that stuff, but in reality, I'm just gonna be like, so no. Gruden wants to know who did it to him. Gruden wants to know who leaked the emails when I was an ESPN play-by-play guy, because that was what he was. He was not an employee. He had not been a Raiders head coach when he sent those emails. Okay, he sent those emails like 5-6 years before, before he was even a coach or whatever. So that's the thing. NFL, they're taking a lot of L's because I think also, what was it? They also just recently lost the appeal with Brian Flores, too. That was another case that was I think that one just got ruled today. The Brian Flores case. I think Texans, Broncos, Giants, and the NFL. He's suing them all. The Dolphins, I think, is going to arbitration, right? Because, they allegedly, interviewed him and thought he was under the impression he was going to get hired, and then he wasn't. And then we also had that Bill Belichick email that the Giants did, and Bill Belichick thought he was being hired, and then, of course, then he realized it was the wrong Bill. Or it was it was the wrong Brian or whatever. So that might be another reason why the NFL won't hire Bill Belichick, too. That's another, nobody brings that up. No one brings that up about Bill Belichick. It's I think that's one of the reasons why Bill Belichick has not gotten hired by the NFL since the New England Patriot thing, since he left the New England Patriots, right? That's one of the reasons why I think he's not getting hired. A lot of people forget about this, but he was the one who sent the text message or whatever to Brian Flores congratulating him because he thought he was getting the Giants job, but it ended up going to a different Brian, as we all know, right? Remember that? I think that's one of the reasons why Bill Belichick isn't getting hired, because Bill Belichick gave Brian Flores the fuel to sue the NFL, right? He gave him that because that's being used in court. That's being used in court, though. That is being used in court against the Giants. A lot of people forget about that. I think that's one of the reasons why one of the reasons why Bill Belichick did not get an NFL head coaching job when he left New England. Was because of that. Because they're using that in trial. And the NFL is fighting Brian Flores right now. Who, again, he won his case too. Or he won the case right now. So now they're in a situation where that has to go to the Supreme Court. Right? That's going to be one of the things that's going to court. Too, that a lot of people are forgetting about. Let's see, right? I want to make sure that's going to the Supreme Court, right? Or it has to be going to the Supreme Court, because I think they went to the New York, because that's another one that was just ruled today. Okay, so it was the Giants, Texans, Broncos. Yeah, so he's suing them. The Dolphins one's going to arbitration because he signed a contract with the Dolphins. I think, yeah, they would have to appeal it to the Supreme Court. Okay, so this is the Second Circuit. Okay, so his was Second Circuit, so they would have to go to the so the next step would be, I think, the state court then for that, because I think that's in New York, right? I think this one Yeah, it's in Manhattan. Yeah, because he's suing the NFL. He's suing the NFL. So in his case, it would have to. Well, I mean, so okay, scratch that. I'm sorry. He's suing the NFL specifically, like where their headquarters are. So that's why it goes to the New York courts, I believe. Despite the fact that there are other obviously teams that he's suing that are outside of New York. But to my understanding, when it comes to Jon Gruden, the reason why he's suing in Nevada is because Nevada is where the incident occurred. Because he was fired in Nevada, or he was forced out in Nevada. So that's why it's going to Nevada. I think that's how it works, though. I don't know how all the jurisdictions work. But yeah, that's another thing too. We could put that on there too. Is that Brian Flores? He won his case. Now his would have to go to state court. So he's not far aligned to where Jon Gruden is right now. Jon Gruden obviously is in a different situation where he's already past that point. He's in the state Supreme Court situation right now, possibly going to the U.S. Supreme Court. But the NFL is going to appeal that one as well, too. The NFL is going to appeal that one, too. So, but this one I'm very interested to see if they're going to appeal it. Because the next step is the U.S. Supreme Court. They did try to do it for the city of St. Louis. But it failed. So that might make them think twice. That might then make them think twice of, trying to do it and try to actually see if they can settle, which I don't think they're going to be able to do with Jon Gruden. And I think that might be the only reason why they would try to go to the U.S. Supreme Court. If it was this one right here with Brian Flores, I think they might try to settle with him. But I don't know if Brian Flores would want to, unless he's getting a head coaching job, because he's still a coach right now. I think he's on the Vikings right now, if I'm not mistaken, as a position coach. I know he was on the Steelers during the year that he didn't get the new coaching job after the whole Dolphins fired him unceremoniously. I still think that was the wrong move for the Dolphins. But yeah, that's really the case. That's what I'm saying. Bill Belichick, yeah. So here it is right here on the article. Right? Bill Belichick, who mistakenly texted Brian Flores, believing that so he believed it was Brian Dable. Yeah, he congratulated Flores for getting the job, but he thought it was Brian Dable that he was contacting. Like I said, that, because that's being used in court. That is one of the main reasons why Flores sued the Giants and the NFL, was because of the whole Bill Belichick thing, the text. Because Bill Belichick has a lot of stroke, because he's a Hall of Fame head coach. So when he was forced out in New England, that's one of the biggest reasons to me to why the NFL has made sure to not hire him. I don't think it's just all the owner of New England right now. I think it's more the NFL, and they're just saying that. Because that, to me, is one of the biggest reasons why this lawsuit with Brian Flores is happening. Because that's a smoking gun evidence right there. You know what I'm saying? So these are big L's for the NFL. We got Jon Gruden possibly getting a court case, unless the NFL tries to prolong it further with the U.S. Supreme Court, which may or may not hear the case. It's still a 50-50 shot. Because if they don't hear the case, that's another thing. If the NFL does not hear the Jon Gruden case, and they elect not to hear it, that means Gruden wins, which means it would go to court, whether it's settled or it goes to court. That happens by default because he won in the last court ruling. So hopefully the U.S. Supreme Court just decides not to take the case. Because if they don't take the case, Gruden automatically wins and it goes to trial, or the NFL would be forced to settle, which again, that's only if Gruden decides to settle, which I don't think Jon Gruden would be the kind of guy that would want to give in. You give him $100 million, what is that going to do for him? You know, he's got a bunch of money already. You know, he doesn't need the money. You know, and he's got his YouTube thing right now that he's doing, and I'm sure he's getting money for that. You know, so he's fine right now. Gruden is fine. He don't need the money. He wants to know the principle of who leaked the emails, you know, or who leaked the emails about him. You know, he wants to know who it was. People still are on the fence on who it is. I've heard people that believe it was Dan Schneider who was trying to leak the emails to get the pressure off of him, which ultimately didn't work because he still was outed and was kicked out and was forced to sell the team to Josh Harris, as we all know, ultimately. A lot of people, and then people on the other side say it was Roger Goodell himself that leaked these emails to get him out because he didn't like Jon Gruden, because Jon Gruden was one of the fewest NFL head coaches that didn't give a fuck and was like you know, one of those coaches that didn't fall in line with how coaches act now. You know, he yells and shit like that. You know, he does all the, you know, he has the personality and shit like that, you know, the Chucky shit. You know, it's stuff we don't see with coaches anymore, right? So that's one of the reasons why, you know, you could argue that Goodell would have been the one who leaked it, which would definitely hurt Roger Goodell's credibility. You know, which, you know, a lot of people hate Roger Goodell as commissioner, and it would definitely screw over Roger Goodell, because if they find that out, then he loses all credibility, and he probably would have to leave. I mean, I still don't know how Goodell survived the Ray Rice shit, you know, because people were calling for him to be forced out right then and there. It was so bad that Roger Goodell allowed an independent person to decide Ray Rice's case, which is very rare in this day and age because Roger Goodell is judge, jury, and executioner. You know, it's the NFL Constitution, as he calls it, which is so fucking stupid, by the way. So yeah, that's where we're at right now with the Jon Gruden update, as well as even the Brian Flores things that came out today. Let me know what you guys think. What do you guys think about either of those cases? Make sure to comment, rate, if you like to video my videos, please subscribe. Hit that notification bell for all the latest contents. Thank you. And make sure to subscribe. Like and subscribe. That's it. I am the SS Ultimate Goku, and I'm out of here. Peace. Also, make sure to, besides the YouTube channel, is to follow the Twitch, the Instagram, and also I do a Discord link in the description where we talk about various topics, including this one here. So now I'm out. Peace.